so today's Monday. That means it's time for Family Movie Night. And this week we are continuing with my Disney Scares Month, which is something I do. This is my 4th year doing it in the month of October, where every week we talk about a Disney film that has a spooky element, maybe a little scary depending on the film, but that is pretty family friendly and appropriate. And I was actually going to do Arachnophobia for this podcast because I thought it'd be a little different. And I remember thinking it was scary. And I watched it. I was so bored. I did not like it at all. I didn't think it was scary. And I just thought it was so dull. And so I was like, I can't recommend this. This is not a good movie. It does not hold up for me. So there you go with that. But so I thought, what could I do that's a little bit fun for Disney Scares Month that I haven't done already? And it just occurred to me that I had never done Monsters Incorporated for this series, which is really amazing. You think that would have been one of the first ones to have come up. But yeah, Monsters Incorporated was made in 2001. And it was the directorial debut of Pete Docter, who is my favorite director at Pixar, maybe my favorite director, period. I don't know, Hayao Miyazaki, Steven Spielberg, Pete Docter, but I mean, Pete Docter has made 3 movies. All 3, in my opinion, are excellent. And he had Monsters Incorporated, Up, which I adore and love, and Inside Out. All 3 of those movies are just so great. And I'm so excited that he is now leading the Pixar studios as the president of Pixar Studios. And I can already see some very interesting, fun things happening since he took over. And we're going to get Soul next year, which I'm super excited for. And I think it kind of says something to the strength of his films, that this is Monsters Inc. is my least favorite of those films, but I really enjoy this movie, and it's such a clever concept. The whole idea of who is underneath your bed, who is coming through the closets to scare your kids at night, and the fact that it's this whole world, Monstropolis, is really, really fun and very clever. The whole idea of how they store up the scares, and you have the top scarers, and you have a movie about friendship, really, between Mike and Sully. Mike is basically your coach of Sully, and Sully is kind of your big lug. He's basically kind of your Wreck-It Ralph kind of type of character, and he's cocky but really charming. And you also get a little bit of cockiness with Mike, because particularly with his relationship with Celia, voiced by Jennifer Tilly, who's hilarious, I think, in her role. And I love her design with the snakes as her hair. I think that's very clever. I really like all the monsters designs. I like how unique they all are. And the whole concept of, we have to kind of learn to scare, and that some monsters wouldn't be scary, and that kind of is added to, I think, in Monsters University, which, as you all know, I think is very underrated. And we did a whole podcast on it, me and Stanford, that I'll put a link in the description about that, because I just think it's a really interesting, bold movie for a movie for children. I think it makes some really bold decisions, and so I appreciate that. And this is more just sort of fun. So I do think it's interesting that the next year later, you had the Ice Age movie come out, and then you have basically the same plot. You have a group of monsters, basically, in some form or another. There's a few more in the Ice Age, but you have them get a human child, a baby, that they have to then take care of. There's even similar sequences like in Monsters Inc. when they're riding kind of through the door factory, whatever you want to call that, the door area. And it's very similar in feel and tone to the scene in Ice Age when they're sliding down the ice. And just even I think the vocal performances are very similar. I think both movies are very similar. And so you kind of had these 2 interesting movies come out. And I would say that Ice Age, just because it had so many sequels, was probably had a stronger cultural footprint than Monsters Incorporated. But I do think Monsters Incorporated is the superior film. And and I really like John Goodman and Billy Crystal in their vocal performances here. I think they're really fun, and it does feel like a friendship. They have that chemistry. I don't know if they're quite at the level of Tim Allen and Tom Hanks, but I don't know if anybody is. I think they have a nice relationship together, and I really like the design, like I said, of all the monsters, but also Mike being this one eye is pretty fun and clever. And then you have Roz, who's really, really, just I really like the complete disdain that Roz has. It's pretty funny, and for Mike especially. So that works quite well. And the whole idea of sort of instilling a culture of fear that happens, and that kind of message of this fear of this child, fear of even touching the clothing of the child, and how they're able to kind of control people because of that fear, I think is a nice message. I think this definitely has really sweet moments, especially at the end. So nice. But I don't think it's quite as emotional as some other Pixar films. And so I think it's kind of a nice little palate cleanser in a way. If you're not up for seeing a movie like Up that's very emotional, or a movie like Inside Out, also obviously very emotional, things like that, that really, even Toy Story 3 really pulls at the heartstrings, where this, I think it's very sweet and it has a nice message. But I don't know, I just feel like it's a little bit lighter than some of the other Pixar films. So that, I think, is a plus in its favor. It's very funny. It has some nice action. I think the animation, the way that the scenes move in the I mean, especially like I said, if you compare it to Ice Age, which came out a year later, I just think the animation is just on a different level. And I mean, I think that this movie should have won for best animated film. This was the first year of the best animated film category, and Shrek was just the thing, and so Shrek won. I think this is a better film than Shrek, which to me is just not my kind of comedy, not my kind of film. It's fine for what it is, but I prefer this personally. But there you go. It had actually won an Academy Award for Best Original Song in If I Didn't Have You, which is a really fun Randy Newman song. So I think they did a good job with that. So it's just a delightful film. I love the friendship between Sully and Mike. And I think the relationship that Sully gets with Boo, it's laid on a little thick for me. And Boo is her sort of adorableness is maybe laid on a little thick, just a little, but it's still really sweet. And in the end, it wins me over every time. So yeah, that relationship, like I said, especially the ending when he gets to see her again, is adorable. So it's a really fun movie. I really enjoy it. So let me know what you think of Monsters Incorporated. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. But definitely, I would give it a smile worthy. So let me know what you think of Monsters Incorporated. Is it one of your favorites? Or maybe you don't like it so much. Let me know in the comments section. I would love to talk about it. And please subscribe to my channel. I do family movie night picks every single week, so you'll really enjoy that. And I do monthly podcasts about Disney and about animation. I cover all the animated films either here or on my blog. So definitely make sure you're following all of that. I really appreciate it. We also have my Patreon group, and we're going to be doing so much fun stuff. Make sure you're also following Hallmarkies podcast, because we have a ton of stuff coming up there, all Christmas related. So you want to make sure you're following that. So thanks again, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.